At the end of the Gerudo Desert, past the whirling sandstorms of the haunted wasteland, lies the desert colossus. A titanic figure, carved by forgotten hands into the sheer face of a rocky outcrop, looms over a secluded clearing. Countless years of exposure to the violent desert winds and sharp sands have worn away at her form, but still her stone eyes watch over any who enter her domain. This is what Sheik describes as a goddess of the sand, and inside, Link finds the Spirit Temple, Ocarina of Time's final elemental dungeon. This temple has been used in recent years as the headquarters for Ganondorf, king of the Gerudo tribe, and his subordinate, the brainwashed Naboru. But it's clearly far older, built in an age long past, seemingly to honor this mysterious desert goddess. In the temple's central chamber stands another statue of this mysterious deity, one which Navi will note looks evil. The fairy's instinct is supported by the Desert Colossus name in the game's original language too, which translates to Evil God Colossus. Clearly, this goddess of the sand was worshipped by the ancient Gerudo, but Ocarina of Time never reveals anything else about her story, her identity, or why she was evil. Let's examine what we know about the Desert Colossus, the wicked god of the Gerudo. Ocarina of Time introduced the Gerudo tribe to the Zelda series. The Gerudo are unique in that they are almost entirely female. Only one man is born every century, a man who is destined to become their king. During Ocarina of Time, this man is Ganondorf, king of the Gerudo thieves, a warlock with darker ambitions than the rest of his people. To the Gerudo, Ganondorf is not only king, but something akin to a god. Ganondorf's second in command during this era is Naboru. Though a thief in her own right, Naboru despises Ganondorf's cruelty, how his followers steal from women and children, and even kill people to get what they want. According to a Gerudo guard near the fortress, Naboru lives in the Spirit Temple and uses it as her headquarters, but once Link visits it, he finds her attempting to infiltrate the temple, claiming that it is now Ganondorf's hideout. After Link completes the child section of the Spirit Temple, he witnesses Ganondorf's surrogate mothers, the evil witches Kotake and Koume, capture Naboru. They brainwash her, and for the 7 years Link then spends sealed in the Sacred Realm, Naboru terrorizes Hyrule. The Carpenters say how they've heard about her cruelty and brutality, and how she is experimenting in brainwashing others at the ruins in the desert. Of course, it falls upon adult Link to save her, to return to the Spirit Temple and defeat the witches. So, throughout the game, the Spirit Temple is presented as a site deeply connected to the culture of the Gerudo. Not only is it built to enshrine or venerate the element of spirit or soul, just like the game's other temples are to their elements, it's used in the modern era as the base of operations for the Gerudo elite. It's a site so important to these people that it serves as a focal point for not only their religion and culture, but their politics too. It is the heart of the entire Gerudo civilization. But it's clearly so much older than other Gerudo structures. Its design is starkly different to the Gerudo fortress, closer to Hyrule, and is described as a ruin by the Carpenters. It seems likely that the Spirit Temple, and the Colossus it is housed within, was built long before the events of Ocarina of Time by the ancient Gerudo, to venerate this goddess of the sand. However, this goddess is never mentioned by any of the Gerudo. The closest the game comes to exploring the religion of the Gerudo tribe is the Gossip Stone that explains how they worship Ganondorf like a god. So whatever deity this was, one who was once important enough to warrant a shrine of this magnitude, is left unexplained. This isn't the only time we see this mysterious goddess, however. In Twilight Princess, set hundreds of years after Ocarina of Time's child ending, the Hero of Time's descendant returns to the Gerudo Desert. Though the Gerudo themselves are gone, their ruins remain, most notably the Arbiter's Grounds. This hallowed ruin is a mystery in itself, a place we know was once used as an execution site, as its Japanese name implies. It was here that the sages attempted to kill a captured Ganondorf, and where they were forced to imprison him inside the Twilight Realm after his escape. There's much we don't know for sure about the Arbiter's Grounds, but we do know that it is connected somehow to the Gerudo tribe. Aside from the decidedly Egyptian aesthetic of its interior, matching that of the Spirit Temple, we can find Gerudo script marked on many of its walls here, suggesting that, at some point in its long history, this place was built or used by the Gerudo. And in a few of its rooms, we find a familiar, unfriendly face, statues of the Goddess of the Sand. Just like in Ocarina of Time, these statues depict a woman with her arms outstretched, palms facing upwards, with a snake wrapped around her body. But also like in Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess offers no explanation for her identity, only serving to further link the Gerudo tribe with this enigmatic goddess. Ever since the release of Ocarina of Time, the truth behind the mystery of the Goddess of the Sand has been debated. Many choose to see her as the Gerudo's interpretation of the goddess Hylia, a guardian deity for all mortals, and that the reason she is considered evil is simply a difference in religion, that Navi is reacting to the face of Hylia refracted through a culture that seems violent and alien to her. Others believe that the goddess is simply one we have yet to see fully explored by the Zelda series, another member of Hyrule's pantheon, a patron goddess for the desert people. There is, however, an answer, at least to what the developers had in mind when designing this colossal statue. In early versions of the game, the Spirit Temple had a different name, one that completely changes how we view not only the Gerudo culture, but the gods of Hyrule itself. Statue of the evil god, Din. Din is one of the three golden goddesses, omnipotent, primordial beings who created the land of Hyrule itself before departing for the heavens, leaving behind the Triforce. She is the goddess of power, and before time began, she, with her strong flaming arms, cultivated the land and created the Red Earth. Not only does this beta text identify the Goddess of the Sand as one of the three golden goddesses, it also explicitly describes her as evil. In the final game, and all subsequent Zelda games, the Golden Goddesses are presented as benevolent, or at worst, neutral beings, creator deities who scarcely interact with the world of mortals. Yet it seems that during development, Din was intended to be an evil god, one whom the Gerudo worshipped over her two sister deities. In fact, there's additional unused textures from an older build of Ocarina of Time that further support this. In a beta version, there are more tents near the bridge in the Gerudo Desert, and one of them is marked with Gerudo text that translates to, "May we have Din's divine protection, safe passage, good health." Of course, the cut textures can't truly be considered canon. If anything, the removal of Din's name from the Spirit Temple is as important as the fact that it was ever included in the first place. The developers clearly made a specific choice to leave the desert colossus ambiguous, an unnamed evil goddess worshipped by the Gerudo tribe, who are, in this game, a clan of thieves. However, this goddess being Din makes more sense than it might seem at first. Din, being the goddess of power, is represented best out of Hyrule's main races by the Gorons, incredibly strong, hardy rock people who live on the fiery Death Mountain. However, the Gerudo too are exceptionally tough. As they live in the brutal Gerudo desert, their culture is built on proving one's strength and ability. It isn't a stretch to imagine that these people would worship Din above all other goddesses, the fiery goddess of power. Of course, the strongest among the Gerudo is their leader, the king of thieves, Ganondorf. Though he was revered by his people as a god in his own right, Ganondorf coveted power for himself. He sought the Triforce, the omnipotent artifact left behind by the Golden Goddesses. By luring the hero of time into his trap, Ganondorf breaks into the sacred realm and lays claim to the Triforce, but he cannot claim all of it. The Triforce can only be wielded by one with a balanced heart. Ganondorf, being a brutal warlord who embodies power and ambition, was considered unworthy to wield its full might, and so was given the Triforce piece that represented him best, the Triforce of Power, Din's piece. There's a poetry to the fact that Ganondorf's desert hideout is built within an effigy of the goddess Din, knowing that he would go on to claim her piece of the Triforce. And with him being something of an embodiment of this goddess's key element, it seems that, during development, his ambition, his malice, his evil was intended to be a reflection of her own, too. Just as the King of Thieves bears the Triforce of Power, balanced by Link and Zelda, who embody courage and wisdom, it's possible that this triad was once intended to reflect the Golden Goddesses themselves, with Din cast in a darker light, balanced against her sisters. Today, over a quarter of a century after the release of Ocarina of Time, the Goddess of the Sand remains a mystery. While we know that she was originally intended to represent Din, we also know that the decision was made to obscure this fact. Zelda's lore and world building is often extremely vague, with the goal of inspiring the player to come up with their own answers to the world's mysteries, rather than lecturing them on concrete, rigid stories. With the removal of Din's name from both the Gerudo tents and the Desert Colossus itself, it certainly seems like this was the intention. But still, even when ignoring this explicit evidence, Din makes a lot of sense here. Of all Hyrule's existing gods, Din certainly represents the Gerudo best. The Oracle of Seasons, called Din, appears to be a Gerudo herself. And during the cutscene where we see Din create the land, we see her creating the Gerudo Desert. Regardless of whether or not she was truly evil, or simply how a culture based on strength and endurance chose to view a creator deity, I still think she makes the most sense as the identity of the Goddess of the Sand, the truth behind one of Ocarina of Time's oldest mysteries. But what do you think? Do you think that the Goddess of the Sand could still represent Din, or do you think there's another answer to this mystery? Let me know in the comments down below. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.